Okay, today I wanted to talk about animated presentations. A lot of this we actually went over in the classroom there, the collaboration room, but I thought I'd go over it just in case you guys were nodding off. First of all, I did provide some examples. I'm not going to go through those, but you're welcome to take a look at those. Again, they're quite nice. The submission requirements, the big thing is that I want you to do an actual animated presentation, not just a little bit of walkthrough, but actually something that can just stand on its own, that can talk about your project and explain it without you kind of being there. And this is the kind of thing you'd see at like a kiosk or on your web page. And in fact, if you did make web pages, this would be great to put on there. So anyway, and the big thing that I want, obviously 90 seconds worth of high-resolution animation, preferably broken into pieces. That's going to be the bigger challenge for you. Some of the, at least one view of that non-rendered rendering that I talked about in the last photoshopping kind of, or one of the earlier photoshopping lectures. And you can do a number of other things. Still image of the plan would be awfully nice. Again, you can just pull that right out of SketchUp. If you had something that you used in your own project, if that's what you're using, by all means, just use that still image. It doesn't all have to be from Lightup or from your project. And musical accompaniment, of course, is always nice. In the examples that I showed, there was all a kind of mellow music in the background, but you can choose whatever you'd like. And you can add in things like filtered views or sections, maps, really anything that you think would make for a good presentation. So in the end, I suspect these all will be maybe 3-4 minutes long. If it's 12 minutes, 15 minutes long, maybe that's getting a little too long. But if it's only 90 seconds of walkthrough and that's it, that's too short. So anyway, and as I mentioned in class, the storyboard is the way to go to when you start figuring out what you want to do with your movie. Don't just sort of jump into iMovie and toss stuff in and call it a day, because there's you kind of want to tell a story with your project. So when you map out your presentation using that blank storyboard, which you can just print right out, think about what you want to put in there. What assets do you already have? Do you already have a pile of still images that you can use? What kind of transitions do you want? Do you want to talk and narrate, or would you rather just let the music run? Do you want credits? That kind of thing. And here's an example from past years. This is probably the most detailed one that I'm showing, where she did a little sketch and she actually said what she wanted and changed around her numbers, as she thought it through. And that's more or less what she ended up doing. Some people just write it out, rather than write a little sketch. Other people were actually doing much more elaborate sketches. The movie making software that you use, I don't really care. Probably the big consideration for you guys is it free or not? So like Windows Movie Maker and iMovie are both free. What I'll show you here, what I like to use is this one called VideoPad, which is a little more robust than Windows Movie Maker and iMovie. It also happens to be dual platform, and it's also free. And my version of the Mac operating system does not come with iMovie free. Some of you, depending on what you got, may also have that issue. So in which case, you would have to pay for iMovie, and no way I'm going to pay. So anyway, the basics, all these software programs work the same. And I don't have the other ones to demonstrate for you, but you basically add some still clips, and these can be images or full screen titles. You can add video clips and obviously audio clips, and then you just drag them into the timeline. The timeline kind of is the playlist, I guess you could say. And what you can do, you can select individual clips or the whole thing and apply transitions. You can also apply effects. And you don't even need to, have just rendered animation and non-rendered stills. You can have rendered stills and non-rendered sections of animation too. The only thing is that I do want you to have at least 90 seconds of rendered animation. So, you know, depending on how long your show is getting, you may or may not want those non-rendered sections. And the big thing is preview your show to make sure you like the way it looks, and then save it in a file format that we can all deal with. There are other things. The software that I'm going to use allows you to add subtitles to images or anything, really. So you can put in subtitles during different sections to describe what we're looking at, and that's awfully nice. You can also split sections of video if it's getting a little bit, you know, vertigo-inducing. When you're all done, save this as a single AVI or MP4 file. Mac and Windows systems have their own favorites, but either of those will work just fine. And what I'll do, I will provide a Dropbox link for a folder so that you can just drag it right into that folder. You can also use WeTransfer.com to transfer these large files as long as they're not more than a gigabyte. If it's more than a gigabyte, let's try to find a way to reduce the file size. But hopefully most of the file sizes will be smaller than that. The last thing, actually, before I show you the software, it would be neat if we could have everybody show up at the same time rather than have two different finals. I don't know if it'll work because obviously you all have other classes. But I know that one of you already has mentioned that they have a conflict with another final during our scheduled exam time. I always wonder how that happens. But so I am proposing that we all meet Monday, May 11th at 3:15. Okay. If you can't do it, then we'll just have, you know, the two sections meet on their own. And obviously, if you are stuck and there is a conflict with some other class, do let me know. But what I'll do, I'll probably just ask you next week in class. So, all right, let's take a look at this model here. Oh, by the way, next week, do a storyboard. Of course, I think actually you'll be looking at this afterwards. Now, I'm not going to do my storyboard, but one thing I'm going to do, I made these titles here in PowerPoint, especially if a lot of you already have kind of graphics and fonts and stuff that you like. If that's already made up in something like PowerPoint or InDesign, just take advantage. And in PowerPoint, and I believe InDesign, you can save every slide as a JPEG. You just go down here and you choose JPEG. You can also choose PNG or TIFF if you're worried about resolution. And what that will do, that will save all of your files. Oh, here, I'll show you what it looks like. It will save all of your files as image files. So I'll click Save. Maybe I'll put this on the desktop here. And it says, do you want to do every slide or just the current slide? Obviously, you want to do every slide. You click that and it'll create a folder with all these images in it. Okay, so what about this video editing software? Well, here it is. This is VideoPad, and I downloaded it. It's a quick download, and it runs rather quickly. And it's a little less prone to crashing than Windows Movie Maker, which you know is fine. Anyway, basically, you have this kind of bin over here where you can collect images, and you can add files. So, for example, I can add in my titles here, and I can do them all, or I can do one or two at a time. And they show up in my bin. Video files, I've already dragged one in. This is my little movie. And you can preview the clip just by clicking on it. Obviously, image files, you don't really need to preview them because they don't do anything. As you're adding stuff, the software will sort them based on you know, what it determines they are, if they're still or rendered animations. Here, I'll just pop a bunch of these in here. Now, the easy part about this whole thing is, you know, it's kind of drag and drop. In fact, you know, that's literally what you should do. Just drag it in. Now, what it is a timeline in seconds here. So it's reading out this image that I just dragged in will stay on the screen for 3 seconds. Now, as I move my mouse over the edge of it, I can drag it further to the left. Well, now it's only 2 seconds long. I can also drag it the other way and make it last longer. You can zoom in and out on this little timeline just by clicking the zoom in or out button. There's probably some other quick key way to do that. I'll put it back to 3. And you can really put anything in there. So I can drag in, you know, rendered images, and I can even put in here, let's drag in, couldn't find my other images of this non-rendered rendering because they're on the other side of my computer, but I can certainly borrow some of these guys here. So you just drag them in, very straightforward. Drag in titles, and then the video file you can just drag that in too. Now obviously the video file, what will happen is it typically stretches out your timeline. If I zoom out here a little bit, because the video file is going to be longer. See how it dragged it all the way out? So what happens is that if you want to get back to all those earlier still images, they're now all kind of compressed together. Okay. And that obviously is a little bit of a hassle when it comes to trying to select them. So for example, I can select these images and I can go up here to the Transitions tab or pull down menu, and I can choose any number of different types of transitions. You know, you can do fades and other kinds of things, but you know, most of you are not going to get like kind of out of hand probably, but dissolves and fades are the typical thing. I'll just do crossfade. Okay, and of course it's going to ask you, hey, you have a bunch of these selected, do you want to do that? Do you really want to apply them to all? And yes, I do. I want to apply them to all. Now, if you want to view what that looks like, you can choose Sequence Preview, and I'm just going to undock the Sequence Preview window. It was actually over here, but I wanted to make it a little bigger because it's a little hard to see. And what you do, you just hit play, and it will show you what the movie is going to look like and kind of give you a preview of what all the transitions are going to look like. And this can be kind of nice. I mean, even just fading from black and white to color can be a really nice effect. And obviously the titles and all that are fine. All right, enough of the preview, because we've seen that way too many times. Let's see. The only other thing that I haven't added is, let's see, I can add a... Okay, so the last thing you might want to do, if you go to the Sequence tab here, I guess, there's a number of features that you can do. You can add new things. You can apply various video effects. So if you want to change the way the video looks, to have it, oh, I don't know, split screen or zoom in or out or that kind of thing. You can also apply transitions if you haven't already. And again, it kind of gives you a little bit of a preview of what those transitions will look like. You can split different tracks either individually or all of them and delete them. Another cool thing you can do is add subtitles. And the way this works is you put in a title. So for example, let's put in lobby space or something like that. What it does is you can control the start and end of this subtitle just by dragging in the timeline. So for example, if I drag the green, or what is it, the blue and red buttons, I can make a subtitle, that's the lobby space, and then maybe later on I can add a new subtitle here that is, I don't know, corridors. And like before, I can drag the start and stop point here. Let's just drag that over to that point. And now you can, by dragging the slider, you can preview what what that subtitle looks like. And there's probably further things that you can do to the text to change its size and all that kind of stuff. For now, I'm not gonna do any of that, but there's all sorts of stuff that you could do. So anyway, those subtitles are great. You hit apply. Once again, you can hit the sequence preview button over here to see what it's going to look like. I'm not going to do that because it's really loud. Anyway, and then when you're all done, you can go to the export tab and choose video file. and export it. Now, my trial has actually run out, and of course, Professor Renz hasn't forked over the money to buy me a new one, an actual license. So when I click it, it'll give me an error message. For you, you should have a menu that pops up that will allow you to choose what resolution you're going to save this as. 1920 pixels wide is the kind of standard format for your laptops, and that's fine. And even though our movie film clip resolution is smaller than that, VideoPad will make up the difference. I'm not sure about iMovie, and Windows Movie Maker may leave a margin on the sides of your image if it's not the full resolution. So you'll want to check that. You may have to export it at a smaller size. So that's basically it for making a movie, making an animated presentation. And I would encourage you all to have fun with it. Do fun things like transitions from line work to maybe some different photoshopped images, and then maybe a fully rendered image. Put in some titles. Put in, some credits. And some fun music to really enjoy this sort of project. And by all means, put this on your websites if you're creating websites for your portfolio. A decent animated presentation is actually a really valuable skill to have if you can make them. So I would, by all means, try to do that.